Joining me now is the Republican Congressman Don Bacon. He represents the 2nd Congressional District of Nebraska, which has voted for the Democratic presidential candidate in the past 2 elections. He's also a member of the Agriculture and the Armed Services Committees. Congressman, it's good to see you back on the show. Thanks, as always, for being with us.
Thank you, Ali. I'm glad to be on. Good morning.
Let's talk about last week's budget battle. It wasn't as much of a budget battle as it was a bit of a political battle. You had the outgoing Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, remarking that this is the way it's going to be next year. Give me your assessment of this. How are things going in the House? Is this an anomaly that it was that rough last week, or are you a little worried that it's going to be a rocky road for Republicans?
Well, first of all, we have to get to the bottom line. We did fund government. We were able to extend the farm bill. We were able to get money put in the disaster relief bill. But I agree with you, it was much harder than what it should have been. We have a 3-seat majority in the House, and that makes it tough. And I would say the Democrats are typically more unified. They tend to vote more in lockstep. I don't want to overgeneralize, but that's pretty much the truth. And on our side, we have 30 to 40 Republicans who will never vote for a continuing resolution or will never vote for raising the debt ceiling. And so that forces the Speaker, because we want to keep government funded, most of us do. It's really stupid politics to be for a government shutdown. Just I got 30 or 40 colleagues on my side that don't agree. But he has to work then with Democrats to get the 218 votes needed to fund government. And then these 30 or 40 Republicans get even more mad. And that's sort of the dynamics that we have. We have 30 or 40 that want it their way. 100% they're not. They're 85% solution is not good enough for them. And that's sort of the dynamics there. Also, it's not just good enough to oppose a spending bill. They have to demonize it and put out a lot of falsehoods. That's what we saw this week. We saw 1 or 2 people providing false information to Elon Musk, who then put it back out. So, for example, he said the Congress wants to raise their pay to $240,000, or essentially a $66,000 pay raise. That was not true. That we were trying to protect Liz Cheney, or not protect her, or that we were trying to protect her on accepting Democrat language. That was not true. That we were going to build a new stadium in Washington, D.C. That was not true. So by the time that this was all put out, you know, the people were enraged because you got these social media influencers that have 1 million followers, and they feed on outrage. That's how they get their money. It's not about being truthful. So that's sort of what we saw this week. I think Speaker Johnson tried to do the right thing. He tried to negotiate in good faith with Hakeem Jeffries. He's a good man. He's got a good heart. He's honest. And so he got thrown under the bus this week by, the social media guys and by Elon Musk. Elon's on our team, supposedly. Why didn't you just call the Speaker and work this out? That's what you do professionally.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Mike Johnson, and this is not about what you think about anybody. It's the idea that he was trying to do the thing you have to do, and that is you're going to have to talk to some Democrats. That's just the reality of the situation here. And frankly, Congressman, you've worked in a world where you just got to do that. You should be doing that. But there have been calls this week in particular on very right-wing radio about this is not the time for compromise. This is the time for hyper-partisanship. Guys like you, and there are many of you in Congress, don't want that. You don't believe that's the way forward. But how do you live in this particular Congress and say, this is going to be a Congress that's only going to work if there's cooperation between people on both sides who are prepared to cooperate? Because that's what we voted for you to do.
We have to speak the truth on this. Hyperpartisanship does not work in a government that has 3 branches and 1 branch has a bicameral. And the Senate, you have to have 60 votes. So you're going to have at least 7 Democrats on most bills to get passed. And that forces more bipartisanship. And so if we were in a parliament like the British have and you're in the majority, you can be this hyper-partisan group and ram through what you want. We just don't have that form of government. We have checks and balances. And James Madison designed this to insist that there has to be some kind of consensus between various factions. Those are the words he used to get stuff done. And so it's unrealistic to think that we're going to get 100% of what we want and the Democrats are going to get 0. And I heard that this week. We get 100, they get a 0. Well, right now, they still have control of the Senate. They still have the White House. So that was really unrealistic. But even when we have the White House and a slim majority in the Senate and a slim majority in the House, there's still going to have to be consensus building to get things done.
Seems to be everybody's feeling their way around Elon Musk and what role he's got in this whole thing. I don't believe that because he's not elected, he shouldn't have a say in anything. Every one of us, every American should have a say in what you think should happen. It's how much control you should have, right? We all have the same control as voters. We have one vote. How do you think Republicans need to think about this? You do have to cooperate with the current president and the incoming president. That's expected. Elon Musk didn't get elected to anything.
Yeah, neither was Jake Sullivan and some folks on the Biden team. So I don't begrudge. President Trump can pick advisors and seek advice and counsel. That's all good. And I look forward to hearing some of the discussions on the quote, the Doge, where we look at where we can streamline government, where we can find savings. Let's have that discussion. I'm all about cutting waste and things like that. What Elon brought to the table this week was more of a social media, bully pulpit, a little bit of a mob reactions. And I don't even begrudge that if it was honest information. I mean, he's working on the side of President Trump. Speaker Johnson is on the same party. Why put out false information and to run over Speaker Johnson? It was not needed to do that. I was a retired general. I am a retired general in the Air Force. Pick up the phone and talk to your ally and say, hey, is it true that you're trying to put a $66,000 pay raise in there? Of course, Speaker John would say, no, that's not true. Right? We're not doing anything like that. What about the football stadium? No, we're just handing the stadium back over to Washington, D.C. so we can get this stadium off the government or federal payroll because it's costing us lots of money right now. That's what needed to happen instead of having this mob mentality on social media and I'm sort of impervious to it because I've been the target of it for 2 or 3 years now, and I just ignore it. But a lot of other folks in our party or in the House, they are persuaded by it. When you have people with 1 million followers lying about you, it's not a comfortable feeling. But that's what we had happen this week.
I want to ask you about Speaker Johnson. You guys have a slim majority, slimified by a few other things, including some appointments. Those seats may be filled in a special election. But let's just talk about the election of Mike Johnson in particular. Where do you think that stands? We know of one person who says he won't vote for him. Of course, these things are not a thing until the actual votes are cast. But what do you think happens now? Do you think Mike Johnson becomes the next speaker, and are you going to support him?
I'm going to support Speaker Johnson. I can't say with definity that he's going to be the next speaker because you have like one of the gentleman from Kentucky that said he's going to oppose him. By the way, anyone that's going to vote against Speaker Johnson is weakening our conference, and it strengthens the hand of Hakeem Jeffries. I'm just going to be blunt about it. There's no other way to look at it. And we had an agreement that in this past month, right after the elections, we all got together, and I'm from the Main Street Caucus, and we put together some amendments to go after some of the Freedom Caucus people who were undermining rules that were doing vacate the chair discussions. And they were up in arms about our amendment. So we said, okay, we'll take the amendments off, but what are you going to give us? And they said, we will support the speaker 100% and we'll raise the bar for vacate the chair. So we worked out an agreement that they would support the speaker 100%. And now to hear some of them say, well, now we're not so sure. I expect people to live up to their word. And when they give us their word, they better stand by it. And the speaker won 100% of the Republican vote a month ago after the elections when we canvassed within our conference. And folks should stick with their word and their commitment.
Congressman, I want to ask you to just stick with me through the break. I want to continue this conversation on the other side. You brought up the debt ceiling and the fact that you are a retired brigadier general, so I want to talk to you about that on the other side. Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska staying with me. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Let me ask you about the debt ceiling. America is one of the few countries in the world that has such a thing, right? In most places, you have a debate on the front end about the budget, about how much you're going to spend, but once you spend it, you agree to pay it. Donald Trump has suggested suspending the debt ceiling. This has been an ongoing fight in America for a long time. He might have the right idea here. What's the dispute around the debt ceiling?
Well, there's a divide on the Republican side on this that when we do a budget, we should know how much the deficit's going to be. So there's a thought. You don't need a debt ceiling because you have this debate every year when you pass a budget. But I also think that raising the debt ceiling forces us to discuss we have a problem, and what are we doing to try to fix it? And right now we're sitting around $35 trillion deficit. our debt. And I got to remind people, you could subtract all of the discretionary spending, all of it. We would still have an $800 billion deficit this year.
Right.
If you subtracted all of the military spending, all of it, we would have a $1.5 trillion deficit this year. So we have an issue with the mandatory spending, and nobody wants to deal with that because it's politically toxic and dangerous to deal with it. I think having a discussion on the debt ceiling forces us to have this discussion. And I'm a proponent for the debt commission. We put half Republicans, half Democrats, formulate a plan to save Social Security and Medicare, but also to work towards a balanced budget. But you got to put it on the floor for an up or down vote. We did a debt commission about 10 years ago, and we did not have that mandate that you had to vote on it up or down. And so the speaker never put it on the floor because it was too tough. We're going to have to deal with this, Allie. We're facing a debt catastrophe here. We can't spend what we need on defense right now. We can't spend on other things that we know we have to spend because our deficit is choking everything out. We're spending more money on interest payments than we are on our military today. That's unacceptable. No. And we got to have that discussion. I think having the discussion on debt ceiling helps us have that and try to bring us to a area where we can agree on how to solve this.
You brought up the military spending. You're a retired brigadier general. It's a hot world out there. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's talk about suspending aid to Ukraine. Your thoughts?
I support it. An independent Ukraine is in our national security interest. If Ukraine falls, you're going to see more European countries fall. I believe you'll see Georgia. This bully, Putin, will not stop. He has been raised to think that Russia should have all the territory that it had under Soviet Union, and it's a view that goes back to Peter the Great. And he doesn't think Ukraine should be independent. They shouldn't be their own people. But he feels that same way about the Baltic states. He calls them renegade states. We've learned in our history that if you don't send to a bully, they're going to keep coming at you. And so we got to help Ukraine survive this. And we're doing it with 1% of our defense budget, roughly. We have no troops there. By the way, I just saw an update from European countries. There's approximately 15 European countries that are giving more to Ukraine than we are when you look at share of GDP. This is a fight for freedom. It's a fight for rule of law. If Russia wins this, basically we're telling the Chinese, oh, yeah, you can take Taiwan. Or might makes right. And that's what's being said there. Or you're telling Iran, hey, you can be that regional hegemon in the Middle East. And it's a bad message to all the other countries in the world if we let this happen.
Congressman, I'm always grateful. You accept our invitation to join us. We always have a fantastic conversation with you, and I thank you for that. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.